430th meeting of the Milwaukie City Council to order. This meeting is being held in person at City Hall and by video conference. The public may participate in this meeting by coming to City Hall or joining the Zoom webinar. The meeting is being broadcast live on the city's YouTube channel and Comcast Cable Channel 30 within city limits. There will be opportunities for the public to speak during this meeting. If you would like to address council, you may come to City Hall or participate via Zoom. If you are interested in speaking, please let staff know by filling out a yellow comment card on the table over there in City Hall or emailing ocr@milwaukieoregon.gov for those on Zoom. When it is time to take public comments, staff will monitor the comment cards, email inbox, and Zoom participant list and chat. We will take comments in the order they are received and seen. Comments may be emailed to ocr@milwaukieoregon.gov. We ask that all Zoom participants who intend to speak label their Zoom username to show their first and last names for the record. Spanish translation services are available upon request. The public is asked to request translation and other meeting accessibility services at least 48 hours before the meeting. For more information, contact the city recorder at 503-786-7502. Servicios de traducción en español está disponible cuando sea solicitado. Se pide al público que solicite servicios de traducción y otros servicios de accesibilidad por lo menos 48 horas antes de la reunión. Para obtener más información, llama a el secretario de la ciudad a 503-786-7502. Translation services are also available in other languages. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The City of Milwaukie respectfully acknowledges that our community is located on the ancestral homeland of the Clackamas people. In 1855, the surviving members of the Clackamas signed the Willamette Valley Treaty, also known as the Kalapuya, etc. Treaty, with the federal government in good faith. We offer our respect and gratitude to the indigenous people of this land. And now we have a series of announcements. The Llewellyn Neighborhood District Association's annual Concerts in the Park series begins tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. featuring Son de Cuba. The band features a blend of Latin, African, and jazz rhythms, playing various genres such as salsa, merengue, and others. The concerts continue each Wednesday in August at Ball Michelle Park. The Ardenwald Johnson Creek Neighborhood Association's annual Concerts in the Park also begin this Thursday at Ardenwald Park. The first concert features the band Soul Cooking, which will kick off at 6:30 p.m., but be sure to stop by at 6 for the NDA's annual National Night Out event. Public safety representatives from both Portland and Milwaukie will be there to promote safety awareness, answer questions, and provide fun activities for kids. The concerts continue each Thursday in August at 6:30 p.m. Be sure to stop by Scott Park each of the next 2 Thursdays at 10:30 a.m. for live entertainment for kids at the amphitheater next to Ledding Library. August 7th features Red Yarn, which includes high-energy folk music and a puppet show. Then on August 14th, Angel Ocasio will be on stage with comedy, magic, and juggling. If you are looking for a great way to volunteer in August, registration is open for the annual Johnson Creek cleanup event sponsored by the Johnson Creek Watershed Council. The event takes place on Saturday, August 16th, and provides an opportunity to volunteers to get into the creek and get out the trash. And they take a ton or more of trash out every year. Volunteers will work at about a dozen sites all along the watershed, and you can see the information on that at jcwc.org. And then join Solve and the Oregon Beverage Recycling Cooperative at a community cleanup and recycling event on Thursday, August 14th from 10 a.m. to noon at the Bottle Drop on King Road. Volunteers will help remove litter around the neighborhood, and any bottles and cans that are found will be recycled with all proceeds benefiting Solve. Learn more and register to participate at bottledrop.com/solve. For more information about each of these events and others, please visit the city's homepage at milwaukieoregon.gov or call 503-786-7555. And then is a haiku. This haiku was submitted by our video tech there in the booth, Joshua. People are confused. Middle housing isn't easy. Questions for council. He wrote that before our recent middle housing town hall, but I did want to, it was a good nexus to mention that event to folks who weren't here. We had a big crowd in this room, a lot more people than tonight, for the middle housing town hall last week. And you can see that online at our YouTube page. So you can snap that that image, that 2D barcode, if you want to look it up, or just go to City of Milwaukee YouTube page and it should probably come up pretty easy. But it was a really, I thought, a very useful program. I really appreciated all the time that staff put into it. And I have encouraged a few people already who missed it to go online and watch it, because we will continue to get questions about this. And I think it's a great resource to direct people to. So again, thanks to staff for pulling all that together. Okay, so we have a proclamation tonight for National Farmers Market Week. We have someone from the board of the CMI to present that and read the proclamation, if so inclined.
I'd be happy to. Good evening, Mayor, and good evening, Council. My name is Shauna Walker, and I'm representing Celebrate Milwaukee and the Milwaukee Farmers Market. I've been with them for the last 5 years, serving as president the last year. So very pleased to read the proclamation tonight. Whereas farmers markets are an integral part of Oregon's food system and agricultural economy and are an important sales outlet for farmers and food business owners, generating revenue that supports the sustainability of family farms and the revitalization of rural communities. And whereas farmers markets provide residents of all income levels with access to healthful, locally produced foods through the Milwaukie Farmers Market and over 70 other Oregon markets that accept Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program, otherwise known as SNAP benefits, and other critical food access programs. And whereas the Milwaukie Farmers Market is celebrating 27 years as a cornerstone in our community, well loved by customers and vendors who come from Milwaukee and far beyond.
Now, therefore, I, Lisa Beatty, Mayor of the City of Milwaukee, a municipal corporation in the County of Clackamas in the state of Oregon, with the consent of the City Council, do hereby proclaim the week of August 3rd through 9th as Farmers Market Week, and do call upon all Milwaukeeans to celebrate and support the Milwaukee Farmers Market and other farmers markets, other area farmers markets. And I will say, everybody loves the farmer's market. Just last night just yesterday, I was at a meeting and people were talking about how to reach people. And I said, the best way to reach people is to try and get a booth at the farmer's market. It is a great way to get people from across the community. And I especially appreciate the SNAP benefit in this time when food insecurity is kind of on the rise and some of those benefits are harder for people to get. So it's really important that that's still available at the farmer's market. So,
absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes, hope to see you all Sunday.
Thank you. Okay. Okay. I thought Darcy was before. Public comments? No. Okay. All right. So we're doing community comments. And again, if you would like to speak, give a yellow comment card to Scott. I think you have one person there who wants to speak. This is the part of the agenda during which the council will hear community comments on city business that are not already on the agenda. Before we begin, is there follow-up from the July 15th comments, Ms. Sager?
Mayor, at the July 16th, you say? The July 15th meeting, the only comment we received was about middle housing from Mr. Cruz, who also attended our town hall. So I think we followed up on a lot of Mr. Cruz's questions there.
Okay, great. So Mr. Crawford, you've indicated you want to talk about the safe fee. We will have a time to talk about that later when the police chief is presenting that. But if you're time constrained, I can let you go now. It's kind of your choice. If you're available to stick around till we get to that part of the agenda. Okay, great. So otherwise, I don't have anyone here in the room who is looking to testify, and you're not seeing anyone online. Okay, so I will dispense with that script.
But I can confirm that Councilor Stavendord is on Zoom.
Okay, great. Welcome, Counselor. Tonight's consent agenda includes minutes of the City Council July 8th, 2025 special session, a resolution acting as the local contract review board approving an intergovernmental agreement with Clackamas River Water for the King Road Improvements Project, a resolution authorizing a contract with Tapani Inc. for the Harvey Street Improvement Project, a resolution acting as the local contract review board reinstating an engineering services agreement with OTAC Inc. for property line adjustment services. Does any council member wish to remove a consent agenda item? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Councilor Stavendord?
Sorry, Mayor. Aye.
Okay, great. So the consent agenda is approved unanimously. All right. Now we will move on to a very exciting project, the Spring Creek Childcare Center going up on Monroe Street at 224. The intersection of 224 and Monroe Street has been hopping this summer between ODOT's work and the Clacko kids' work on the new center. I got to be there for their groundbreaking earlier this spring. But I wanted Darcy to come tell everyone about what's going on there. So Darcy Kilstonk is the executive director of the Clackamas County Children's Commission, which operates operates Head Start programs across the county. Okay. And you need to press the little button so the red light comes on. That way you're picked up by the microphones and everything. I mean, the camera and everything.
Hello, Mayor Beatty and council members. It's my pleasure to be here today. Darcy Kilstonk. I'm the executive director at Clackamas County Children's Commission. I have a bit of a PowerPoint just to share about our agency, and then I know what you really want to know about is the Spring Creek project. So I'll get started. I always tell people the work that we do is hard work, and Mayor Beatty, you mentioned the importance of childcare, and we're certainly proud to be a part of that. But I do tell people that because we run the programs of Head Start, Early Head Start, and Healthy Families, we're more than childcare, and I'll talk about that. So we refer to ourselves as Clacko Kids. It's just a shorter term for the long name. It's a little bit confusing. We're not part of the county. We are a 501c3 nonprofit. I always share about our vision and our mission at every gathering that we have because I think it's important. Our vision is a future in which all children have the best possible opportunity to succeed. And we do that through supporting the growth of healthy children and families, positive parenting, and school readiness. We're 3 programs, Head Start, Early Head Start, and Healthy Families, under one agency umbrella. You know where we are. I don't have to tell you that. But you might be interested in knowing that we have 13 current centers. Spring Creek will be our 14th, and then I'll talk a little bit about other centers coming on also this year. It's a big year construction-wise for our agency. And you can see where Spring Creek is. This isn't part of the presentation, but I will share that our agency serves lots of communities, and we are not funded like schools where we have limited funding for a limited number of children to serve. So it's not that every child that comes in the door gets services. And so we have to find a way to prioritize them. We serve children that are in poverty, and we use the poverty guidelines of 100%, which means that a family of 4 has to make less than about $30,000 a year to qualify for our services. So it's a low threshold, or high threshold, I should say, to qualify for our program. We also prioritize children in foster care, children who are identified as houseless, and children who reside in a home where there's a person with a disability. And what I was going to say is the way we prioritize is on risk factors. What's important for you to know is the children in the Milwaukie area have the highest risk factors of all the entire program. So we're serving the children most in need in the Milwaukie service area. So we currently serve 306 children in our program Head Start, which is ages 3 to 5. All of those children are served in a full day setting. We also serve children prenatal to 3 in early Head Start. And currently we have 296 children served. 60 of those are served in a home-based program. And that means they get a home visit a week of an hour and a half in duration. We have 16 what we call combo children, and they're served 2 days a week in a classroom and also get 2 home visits a month. And then most of the infants and toddlers are served in full day settings. About 87% of the children we serve come from homes where the parents are working or going to school, so they need that full day of care. And that's why the importance of childcare as a part of what we do. We also have the Healthy Families Home Visiting Program, which is also prenatal to 3. It's really focused on developing the attachment between the caregiver and the child, and is proven to be a prevention effort for child abuse and neglect. These are our staff. Our staff are really committed to the work that we do. They don't get paid enough, and we can't provide enough benefits for them, and yet they show up every single day. Another really important piece of the work we do is parent advocacy. So our program is governed by a board of directors like typical nonprofits are. But what's important to know is that we're also governed by what's called Policy Council, and it's made up by current parents in the program. And they are the pass-through to get information on the agenda for the board. So the parents meet the week before the board meeting, and I present to them pretty much everything that I present to the board, including grant applications, employment policies, budgets, credit card statements, the budget to actuals. They have to approve it before it goes before the board. So they have power. Which is unusual in programs like ours, but the parents that are receiving the services really have a voice. And that's the reason why I stay in Head Start. I think it's a really important part of it. We also teach advocacy by taking parents to both the state legislature to meet with their legislators and get to know what that process looks like. And each year I can take 2 parents to Washington DC to meet with our Congress people, and that's always a highlight for them. I'm gonna skip this video, maybe. Yeah. So I always say we have a 3-legged stool, so to speak, and that is we work with children, but all of our services are multi-generational. So at the same time we're working with children, we're working with parents. So all parents have a home visitor. They work on family goals with the parents, accessing community resources. A lot of their goals are around improving housing, getting basic needs met, improving education, job search skills, and our home visitors are trained to work with them on that, always with the goal towards upward financial mobility. And the third leg of our stool, besides parents and children, is community. And so it's really important that we're involved in the community. Some of the things that we're involved in are externally hosted committees and groups, including the Early Learning Hub, the County Public Health Advisory, the District Attorney's MDT, P3 committees, and the Safe Kids Coalition. Internally, we also host committees that we invite the community into, and that's our Health Services Advisory, our Curriculum Committee, our Strategic Planning Committee, Healthy Families Advisory, and of course, the Parent Policy Council. We operate a food pantry out of Barlow, and we're hoping to open a second food pantry in Sandy this year. And we're partners with the PDX Diaper Bank so that we can give out diapers to families in need when they can't afford them. We hold events that are community facing, including the Super Bowl. That's SOUPEER. That's held every the Saturday before the Super Bowl. And it's an event to, it's a food and supply drive to fund our, or to put supplies into our pantry at Barlow. And it's a lot of fun. Artisans donate beautiful ceramic bowls, and we have unlimited soup and bread. And people come and they have some soup and bread, and we have a faux tailgate party where they can sample different restaurants' bites. It's a lot of fun. So look for that. And then we have Family Fun Day each year in June. And this year we held it at Clackamas Community College on a rainy day, which was unfortunate. But we partner with PNC Bank to hold that opportunity. And families come and it's just a day of fun for them. Our Cheers for Children event is coming up in October, on October 4th. That's our big community-facing event where we have a silent and live auction, a nice dinner, a wine wall, and a dessert dash. It's a lot of fun. And then each year we hold Kicks for Kids campaign. We've been lucky enough to partner with the Oregon City Subaru, and they, through their Share the Love event, have helped us to purchase new shoes for every child in the program. And a lot of the children in our program have never had a new pair of shoes. So that's really a fun event. The parents come and they shop with their child and find shoes. So that's a little bit about what we do in the community. Some pictures of Super Bowl and Cheers for Children. But what you really want to know is what's coming up. So on the right-hand side, you'll see our new buildings, including the Milwaukie building, which I'm going to talk about today. We've titled that Spring Creek. But we also have one that we're about to go out for bid on at Gladstone. It's also the Gladstone YMCA building. We purchased both at the same time. And then we are opening the Merrillhurst building, the Merr Arts building. We received some funds from the state legislature to renovate that. So that will be a new center for us this fall as well. So this is the architectural rendering of the Spring Creek building located at 2992 Southeast Monroe Street, as Mayor Beatty indicated. It's on the corner of 224 and Monroe. These colors are incredibly bright. They won't be. I keep giving them a hard time, like it's not going to be that bright. Some of the details about the project are, it's really important to me that children are connected with nature. And so every detail in the building will make sure to be a reflection of nature. One of the things we're excited about is we're doing a sensory hallway in an effort for children to be able to kind of decompress on their way into the classroom as well as on their way out. Checking my time to make sure I'm not going over. Very calm classroom environments. A nature-based playground that features play exploration with water that will have the hand pump with a dry creek bed that water, the children can pump water through it and play in the water, limited play in the water. We have logs that they can climb over and get their need for climbing out. And then we build a slide into the hill. So they walk up the hill and then they can slide down, which is really fun. We have gardens at every center and gross motor opportunities. This center in particular will have 2 preschool classrooms and 3 infant and toddler classrooms. The capacity for the preschool classrooms is 20 each. We typically keep them at 17. We found that 17 is a little easier on the staff to make sure the children get the attention that they need. And then 3 infant and toddler classrooms, the capacity for those by licensing is 8. So total capacity, if we're maxed out, is 64 children at this center. There's a covered area for parent pickup and drop off. It'll also be arranged in a way that a lot of our parents lack socialization opportunities. And so we find that once they get to know each other, during drop off and pickup, it's an opportunity for them to connect. So we wanted to create a space that naturally is conducive to that. We're really excited. This is our first center that we're going to have solar panels on the roof that will hopefully power much of the center as much as we can. What we're super excited about is we'll have battery storage. Because all of our centers are licensed, if we lose power, we have to send children home by licensing standards. This will allow us, if there's a power outage, to continue operating. And as I said, many of our parents need the care so that they continue to work and go to school. And so it's really important that we don't call them midday and say, power's out, you gotta come and get your kid. So we're excited to have that. In the building is a renovated office space, break rooms, and kitchen, as you would expect. But we've created, one of the classrooms will also be used as a community space. And so we'll use that for parent education opportunities, family gatherings, and events that we typically host for our families. But in the case of an emergency situation, like we experienced during the pandemic, we can turn around and utilize the center for natural disaster relief, emergency food, potentially shelter if we had to. So that's really exciting to be able to serve the community in that way. As I said, we have solar installations. So this is a picture of, that's the roof on the right-hand side, and they had to structurally kind of beef up the roof. And then on the left, that skirting around the roof is also to accommodate the solar installation.
You were putting in for a PGE grant. Did you get that, or
We won't know about that till December.
So you're funding it?
I'm really counting on it.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's for the battery storage. We have the funding for the solar panels, but the battery storage, we've submitted a request to PGE to fund that. As you can see, new HVAC and electrical upgrades throughout. New framing, insulation, and walls. I just wanted you to see kind of where it's at right now. I was just there 2 weeks ago and they were putting all of the sheetrock up, which then you start seeing the rooms. It's exciting. So I'll stop here, and this says I have 2 minutes left. So I'll just run through these pictures real quick. They're really lovely. This is the front of the building. It doesn't look quite as bright. And this, you can see down here the log structure that I was talking about, and then some boulders that they'll also climb over.
I should note for people that Ben Johnson, a Milwaukee resident and who helped design our parks, also did the landscape architect design for him.
Fantastic to work with, not just on this project, but they're our landscape architect of choice. They do such a nice job. I always say they get me. Another rendering of the front of the building. As you can see, it's not as bright as the drawings. Here's another great picture of, I'm sorry, you can't see this, of the outdoor space. And then more of the boulders. We're really excited about the center. It's going to serve the families of Milwaukie. This is our fourth center in Milwaukie. So we have one at Milwaukie Presbyterian Church on Lake Road. We have our River Road Center, which is one of our main centers off of River Road. And we have 5 classrooms. We utilize one as office space, but 4 classrooms at the Wichita Center. And then Spring Creek will be our 4th in Milwaukie. The need is great in Milwaukie. And I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Any questions from anyone?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
please.
Sure.
First of all, this is fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
It's
It's very exciting.
yes, very exciting. Very much needed, obviously. And I was amazed at how many kids you guys serve, which is fantastic and incredible. But it's also sobering, right, to see that many kids are in need. And my question, you may not have an answer to the, that's a timer. You may not have an answer to this right now, but I'm just curious on a couple of levels. And I don't know how much your funding relies on federal grants or anything like that. But I am curious, 'cause I do think with the newest terrible no good bill, that more people are going to be in need of, more families will need these services. And just seeing just your capacity and potential to grow over the next 3 years. What does that look like?
Yeah, great question. So good news, bad news. The good news is our agency is unique in that we're funded, about 80% of our funding comes from the state of Oregon, the Department of Early Learning and Care. So we're feeling really stable. I have said for quite some time that we need to really diversify our funding more. And now I'm really, really glad that we're mostly state funded. But 20% of our funding does come from the federal government through a grant from the Office of Head Start. As you may or may not be aware, it was slated to, Head Start was slated to be cut in March, April. And, you know, this is where the beauty of Head Start comes in. We have over 1 million alumni that are working, tax-paying citizens, and they're not afraid to speak up and talk about the importance of Head Start. I don't know if it was that or we also have some really supportive people in Congress that all of a sudden Head Start was back in the budget. We think we'll be flat funded at this point and we'll be happy with that. That could mean down the line because, you know, I just met with our insurer and our insurance costs have gone up 23%. So when you get hits like that and you don't have increases in funding, it's hard to figure out how to make that. And about 87% of our costs are purely staff. And we have a minimum of staff to meet licensing requirements. So there's not a lot of give there. The state too, even though we're really thankful for the priority that they've placed on early learning in Oregon. It's a great time to be in Oregon in early learning. But they too have had some budget shortfalls and we believe will be flat funded there too. And so I always say there's lean times and there's fat times. We're in the really lean time. So right now we're just watching and seeing And honestly, I've told staff, we're just gonna ignore the noise and pay attention when something happens, but we're moving forward. We've also applied for additional slots from the state. There is a tiny pot of money that's available. And they've told me that the number of slots I've applied for is half of the money they have available. And I said, well, that's great. Clackamas County really needs it. So I don't think I'll get all of them, but I am concerned. We just shifted 179 of our part-day preschool slots to infant and toddler care. And we did that because the need is greater in infant and toddler care right now. But that's going to create a bigger wait list for preschool now that will not be met. And so I think we're in a good position. We've been fully enrolled. We've never been on an enrollment plan, fully staffed. We're in a good position to take more slots if they award them.
I wanted to add, I had a couple questions. One was, your classrooms at Wichita. I know Wichita was kind of closed this summer for a new roof. Is it all ready and it will be ready for the school year?
Wichita, I believe, will be ready for the school year. We have an excellent partnership with North Clackamas School District, but we are limited by, they're doing some upgrades to the building, which is really welcome news. We can't have infants and toddlers in the summer, and infants and toddlers by performance standard are year-round services. And so each summer, we're gonna have to figure out how to shift those. Spring Creek will be really helpful. When we open, we'll be able to shift children into Spring Creek purposefully. We'll serve more infants and toddlers there and more preschoolers at Wichita because we have to exit in the summertime. So the need is great at Wichita. Families love Wichita. And I'm thankful that we'll have Spring Creek to allow us a little bit of flexibility to meet that.
And so when do you expect to open Spring Creek?
October.
October.
Yeah,
Okay,
they're telling
awesome.
me the last week of September, first week of October.
Okay.
And it's only because we have a log, the logs that are being built, there's a backlog on them. So they won't be here till September 12th. Then we have to allow for installation and the finishing of the playground, and we can't license it until all of that is done. So we'll be geared up and ready. As soon as that's done, the licensor will come, we'll get it licensed, and then we'll shift.
So the building's almost ready.
It
It
is.
sounds, I haven't driven by probably in a week, but I did not think it was that close to ready, but it's,
It doesn't look from the
Yeah.
outside like it is, but like I said, 2 weeks ago, they were doing the sheetrock.
Yeah.
And I know that the sensory hallway people, which to me, that's like a final finishing touch, they met there last week to make final
Okay.
plans. So
okay.
they're gearing up and getting ready. There's
Great.
not flooring yet,
Mhm.
the final flooring, and the playground is still ripped up. So from the outside, it looks really, really rough, but inside, it's starting to
To
look
take
a little
shape.
more finished.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. And I will invite all of you to the ribbon cutting for sure.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, I was hoping to. It looks like, I guess, two questions. It
Yeah.
looks like you have about 750 slots across all of Clackamas
Mhm.
County. Like, how oversubscribed are you, or how long is your wait list in comparison to the number of slots that you have?
So that's hard to tell right at this minute because we just did that shift. So I can tell you what I think it will look like. Up until
Yeah.
this point, our wait list, we go by percentages. So we always want to have about a 20% wait list, which means whatever capacity we have, we want to have 20% waiting because we have to fill slots as soon as they become available. You can't have an open slot. So if somebody moves, we have to fill them with the next child on the wait list. So up until right now, our wait list for early Head Start, which is our infant and toddler program, was 120%. We
Wow.
could have filled every single classroom over again with eligible children and still had a 20% wait list, which is why we did the shift. Our wait list for preschool has been running 18 to 20%. So right about where we wanted it. But now that we've shifted, I expect our wait list for preschool to be more like probably 40 to 45%. So the need will be greater there. The other thing is we're serving new communities with infant and toddler care. And every time 5 years ago, we only had 2 classrooms. Starting this fall, we'll have 25 infant and toddler classrooms. So we've really blown up our infant and toddler care. Every time we serve a new community, people find out we have early Head Start there and more applications come in. So it's possible we'll realize that that wasn't even enough. I suspect that could be true, that both wait lists will still be sizable.
Okay, wow, that's a big gap there.
Yeah, and it's unique because, I mean, two things. We've been able to stay fully staffed to be able to run all of our classrooms. Other Head Start programs have gotten slots taken away because they haven't been able to do that. We have, knock on wood, pulled out all the stops to try to keep people in our program. And we don't have a lack of children at all.
Yeah. Well, all of this makes me think, what are the things that we as the city can be doing to help better support your program, better get more childcare slots in the city of Milwaukie?
Well, I have to tell you, the city of Milwaukie has been incredibly supportive to us. I've asked for letters, so thank you for your support with letters. When we had some permitting kind of bumps, I know people were working in the background to make it happen. So I can't thank the city of Milwaukie enough. Truly feel like there's good partnership here. What more could you do? I would say, just let people know about us. Let people know about what we're doing in the community.
Get people to go to their dinner in October.
Yes, come to Chairs for Children. Tell your friends. It's a good time too. I always tell people it's most important that people have fun.
Fair. Yeah, so thanks, Darcy, for coming in.
Yeah.
I have sort of two comments. One may be a little bit out from left field, but we have a goal within our city of economic development.
Mhm.
And, every study I've ever seen about Head Start, they talk about, the advantages of Head Start and educational achievement, lifetime earnings. And so I see this center as an early economic development for our city. These are our future workforce here. So thank you for bringing these well-educated, wonderful children to Milwaukie. So that's sort of my practical side. On the softer side, I live about 3 blocks away, and I can't wait to see them coming down on the Wobbler line, on their walks, because that'll get me out on the porch.
Well, you'll see the big strollers. We have strollers that hold, I think they hold 6 babies.
Wow,
Uh,
wow.
And so, they go trucking down the street. We call that the infant and toddler field trips. We don't take them anywhere except for around the neighborhood.
Yeah,
And people do get to know the children and.
I look
things
forward
them.
to it, yeah.
So please do.
Yeah.
Great. All right. If no other questions for Darcy, I will let her go on about her evening and we will go on to the rest of our agenda, but we will be looking for those invitations to the ribbon cutting for sure.
You'll definitely get them. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
That's for you, if any of you would like them.
Scott could probably take a few. We have a table for, we have a table out here for stuff like that. So that'd be great. That would be great. Okay, thank you. All right, next on our agenda, it's the police chief's night tonight. And the next thing is the downtown open container conversation, which is, I believe, part 3 of this conversation. So we have Chief Burdick and Captain Cheragino to talk to us about that.
Hello, Council. Thank you for
Oh, yeah.
Sorry about that. Thanks again for having us here tonight. I'm Ryan Berg, the police chief. This is Tony Cheragino, our operations captain. And we're here to do some follow-up on the open container. In last April 15th, during regular session, We talked about some of the concerns related to open container, including staff resources to patrol and enforce an area, proximity to Milwaukie Boulevard. It's a busy high crash corridor, and some of the unintended negative impacts that could be occur on members of our community struggling with substance abuse or behavioral health challenges. We explored the idea of the open container zone that could be activated for permitted events, but all the previously mentioned concerns still apply. The insurance requirements that would likely be needed for the city to assume the risk, permitting in such a broad zone, really made this approach untenable. Staff asked for some clarification, and proponents were explaining the biggest goal is just supporting foot traffic up and down our downtown to support the local businesses. During that April meeting, it sounds like there were kind of 3 touch points. Council requested some additional information. The first was estimated insurance costs for a large event that serves alcohol. Insurance estimates are easier to identify for your space-limited kind of beer garden events. Conservative estimate using eventhelper.com. This was something that Dan Harris carried me completely on because I've never applied for insurance. And it's a planning tool or software and was about $400 to $900 with coverage of $2 million per occurrence and a $3 million aggregate. This coverage is consistent with what North Clackamas Parks and Recs District require for park events with alcohol. Additional coverage can vary, obviously, depending upon crowd size or other elements of a large event. If the city were to try to determine an insurance requirement for a large unmonitored zone, it would likely be prohibitively expensive for any potential applicant. Further, there's some big challenges. Downtown, we have a very active bus mall and the light rail. Both are transit properties or TriMet properties, and TriMet will not allow alcohol on their property. And then we have a follow-up with Captain Chiragino.
So one of the other questions was, what standards does OLCC Commission have for volunteer alcohol monitors for large events? And this is covered under an Oregon administrative rule labeled Alcohol Management in Public Venues. And alcohol monitors are responsible for ensuring that unlawful sales, services, and consumption of alcohol does not occur on licensed premises. Alcohol monitors and some of their duties are observing people, monitoring their alcohol consumption, monitoring the sales of alcohol, making sure people aren't getting too intoxicated, make sure kids aren't, and I should say minors aren't purchasing and drinking alcoholic beverages on the premises. And then they also are monitoring and checking IDs. A lot of times when you go to these events, you'll see wristbands, a pretty common source of marking if someone's 21 or older and has been checked by an alcohol monitor, or the servers at that location won't even serve you. And then also potentially preventing the access to alcohol for those who are underage, like I mentioned, or visibly intoxicated. And there are some permit eligibility requirements that OLCC does require. And one of those is you got to be 18 years old. You do have to pass an alcohol server education class. They do have a fee for $23, and then you have to take and pass an OLCC test. And then there is a small criminal check as far as a criminal records check, where you have no recent disqualifying criminal histories, and some of those would be like felony DUI convictions that were, that occurred recently. OLCC does also have some mandates for staffing for the number of monitors, and that's based on the number of attendees that are expected to be in the crowd. So, for example, anywhere from 2,000 to 7,500 attendees, they require to have 3 monitors. And 7,500 to 10,000, 4 monitors, and then an additional monitor for every additional 2,500 people. They also require additional monitors if they have for each point of sale that maybe isn't visible. So if you have multiple locations where you're selling an alcoholic beverage and it's not visible from one to the other, they require an additional monitor on top of that to make sure kind of sight and insight that everyone's being monitored and can be seen. And so what does this have to do with our budget impact? And as our staff's recommended course of action, there would be no budget impact. However, if council chooses to go a different direction, a different action, and that does result in the open container or something similar, there's going to be additional costs borne by the public safety, by the police, finance department, public works, because we have to, there's undertake planned work that we need to do for enforcement, signage, liability, assessment, insurance, contract vetting, and even more. And so the workload impact on this was another question that came up. And right now we have a minimum staffing level of 3 officers for the whole city. So a little over 5 square miles, 22,000 people. We have 3 officers, mandatory minimum requirements. So this would put stress on our staffing levels. We're already at low staffing levels. We have generally at full staff 18 patrol officers patrolling and 6 sergeants to maintain the 24-hour operation 7 days a week. And so this would put, if we did create an open container zone in downtown, Milwaukie has both opportunities and challenges, and permitting an activation of a downtown open container would require significant staff money for these resources. I have some personal experience around this a little bit. I started my career in Phoenix, Arizona, and it's not an apples to apples comparison. Phoenix, Arizona is the 6th largest city in the United States, and there were 3,000 officers when I was there at the time. But we did have venues that they had large entertainment districts where they would close streets down, or allow open containers to people to walk around through business districts or entertainment districts. And when you have police officers doing staffing, there would be downtown business alliances that would cover the cost of that the city here, that we don't have to cover that cost of the overtime, or the police, it's not in the police budget. And they would contribute to that. And when you're picking 20 to 30 officers from 3,000 like we had in Phoenix, that's 1% of the staff that's getting burdened working extra overtime. Our staff right now, there's officers working 200, 300, 400 hours of overtime a year. If you take 2 officers at overtime to help with that, that's 8% of our patrol staffing that's being affected, or 10% as we're running now, which puts extra burden in staffing and on our officers just trying to fill the extra responsibilities that this could create.
One of the other touch points was council had asked for some engagement with local businesses, particularly businesses that were more interested in the open container idea. And the one thing that came across was their goal was, how do we get people downtown? Not necessarily we want an alcohol open container zone. So this was an idea, but not something that they were fixated on in any way. The conversations had general support for staff's recommendation of utilizing the city's existing permitting process. One of the things I asked was, I said, hey, I've never been an applicant. Is this process easy for you? Is it doable? And they said yes. And so I was pleased to hear that government works, that this process was clear, it wasn't overly burdensome, and they could get through it in a timely fashion. And essentially, let's keep doing these city events. They really enjoyed that. Milwaukie Fest was great. The addition of Freem has really sent, I think, us on a great trajectory. And the permitting process totally supports that. So kind of the coordination concurrence piece of this staff report is to keep building off this current permitting process, to expand that, make sure that that process works for our business owners. We can keep getting feedback to see if there's issues that come up, but to stay that course. In summary, it's just the current approach to permitting strikes the right balance. It's between fostering a vibrant downtown, we ensure public safety, livability, equitable access to open spaces. And the idea of a permanent open container zone may appear to offer some convenience. It carries significant regulatory, enforcement, and community impact risks that outweigh its potential benefits. So the staff recommendation is to stay with the existing permitting process, continue to support local events, while also providing the necessary oversight and flexibility to address these community needs.
Thank you. Thank you. Counselors have questions or comments? Well, I will say that your recommendation makes sense to me. I did talk with the city manager yesterday about whether our events staff have some capacity to maybe help applicants with the process a little more and make it a little easier for applicants. But you're right. I mean, we have some of the same applicants, Freem and Beer Store, doing so they probably know, most of them know, but there could be new events where people don't necessarily know. Yeah, I think, we want it to be easy. I think the beer garden aspect of the little float this weekend, or of the having, not only the beer at Freem, but the beer down by uh, the professional wrestling venue during Milwaukie Fest.
An amazing event.
Was a was a popular thing. So I think, it seems like the businesses know how to make it work. Other people, other thoughts?
I have a couple of thoughts. But I don't want to jump on anybody's toes. Nope. Okay. All right. Cool. Thank you. Sorry for my tardiness, but I've been following along online and really appreciate the report back, and it answered some of the questions that we had in the previous meeting. We have a business that is within close proximity to some of the others that serve alcohol downtown. And so I've had a chance to reflect on this a bit more, just from a different vantage point, having gone through the process. And we are not a bar, but we do serve alcohol. And it makes it a lot more, oh, I'm sorry, you can't hear me? Okay, let me get a little bit closer. Okay, how about that? Okay. You missed all the important stuff though, so no, I'm just joking. Anyway, I just want to, we had an event over the weekend in which, we, for the first time, had a chance to use the fully permitted space from the OLCC. And to think about having people moving through that space and coming into, our business, and some of them were, because it was First Friday, and so they were drinking in other places, and it was a lot to manage. It was a lot to monitor. We have a system where we have a certain number of drinks, because it's for a show, not a bar situation. So it's been difficult, to think about how the implementation would work, and I think it would actually adversely impact our business, to have something, that has more of that free flowing foot traffic. And it's hard to tell someone, well, they've only had one drink, in my place, but I'm cutting them off because they don't look like they're in a position to drive. And then that reflects negatively on me because I'm the jerk, right? So anyway, I want to say thank you for the thoughtful process and for reaching out to businesses in the area and kind of, answering some of the questions about insurance and OLCC implementation. The piece about TriMet, I think probably should have come to mind, but it didn't come to mind until you called that one out. So, I think that there are jurisdictions that grapple with this topic and they're able to figure out some type of implementation, and maybe at some point Milwaukie will get there. But I think continuing with the application process seems like a good step at this point. And anyway, I just want to say thanks.
Thank you.
Council President?
Thank you for coming back with all this information. I feel bad. It sounds like we're at the same spot we were in after our second meeting. So I feel bad that you had to come in for a whole third discussion, but I think that we've landed in a really good spot here and appreciate all the legwork you've done.
No, happy to. And it was valuable talking to some of the folks, Rudy at Freem, Mike at the beer store, and those folks in particular, who that's more their business, to say, how is it for your business? How is it for the permitting process? Is that working? And they're just like, hey, we're just excited about Milwaukie. We like the direction, and just how to get people downtown and enjoying this, experience. So.
Not hearing anybody pushing back against the staff recommendation. So, anybody want to make any final comments, or shall we move on to the next thing on our agenda? Okay. All right.
Don't feel too bad, Council President. He had to be here anyway for the next.
Yeah, yeah. True enough. True enough. So now we are going to talk about the public safety fee, which we did have someone who wants to testify about. And we did get at least one letter on.
We received two submitted pieces of correspondence in advance of the meeting.
So we have, again, Captain Burdick, Chief Burdick, oh, no, not Captain Jerry. Our Finance Director, Michael Osborne, and our Library Director, Brent Hesher.
I think I'm actually kicking this one off, but it's a pleasure to be here joined by my rock star team of directors. This really is a team effort and a conversation that spans departments, so that's why you've got the full brigade today. Next slide, please. Before I hand it over to these wonderful people, I just kind of wanted to set the stage, both for council, who it's been a while since we've talked about this, but also for anyone watching to kind of explain how we got here. And it really started back a year plus ago in May when we were adopting the most recent city biennial budget. When we brought that to council, we daylighted an issue in our general fund, an issue that we had seen coming, but it was getting more and more acute. I'm gonna pause while they work out a tech issue, just because it's hard for me to not get distracted.
I do not.
Scott might be able to get you some from our first aid kit when he's done. Tylenol. Okay. So Scott's gonna get painkillers for Counselor Coast Body, and I'll pick back up where I left off. So last May, we brought the budget to you, and we daylighted then that there's a stability problem in the city's general fund. If you looked out over our 5-year forecast, in year 3, we dipped below what our policy says is where we should keep that fund's reserves, and in year 4, we were into the red. Now, why? And this is not a Milwaukie problem. This is a cities in Oregon problem. We have some structural issues with how we fund municipal services. I won't go through the big deep dive tonight, but measures 5 and 50 and other constraints mean that our revenues don't increase at the same rate that the costs of providing services do. And we've kind of known this was an issue for a while. All cities have, but it's becoming very acute as we experience the same inflationary pressures that our entire community has. So when we brought the budget to you, Michael and I committed to a 3-pronged financial stability strategy that we have been working hard on for the last year and will continue to work on. It has 3 components. The first is stabilizing costs. So this was, you got to get your house in order. You got to make sure you are not having any superfluous expenditures. We were already very lean, but we adopted a budget that was effectively a hold the line budget. We told most of our departments you could not increase your expenditures, which effectively means a cut when inflation is hurting, is affecting costs. The second was maximizing existing revenue streams. We've taken some efforts there to make sure any existing revenue is clearly audited, we're bringing in the money we need to, and we're making the best use out of those existing streams. Those two features of the strategy have already paid off. At our last budget committee meeting in May of 25, we shared an updated forecast that wasn't perfect. We still have a problem, Houston, but we were starting to see some stabilization, which is great. But this third prong of the strategy is still needed. This is identifying new revenues. At that May budget committee meeting, we daylighted 3 recommended strategies to you, and we got consensus from budget committee to move forward with all 3. One is a payment card transaction fee that you adopted a couple months ago as part of the consolidated fee schedule. The second is investigating a red light and speed on green camera program that will take at least a year to develop, but we're moving on that. And the third is a proposed public safety fee, one piece of this overall puzzle. Next slide. So why public safety? And I think it's important to note that this revenue strategy isn't just any revenue for revenue's sake. We really wanted to make sure we were being as strategic as possible, because I have a belief that government should only bring in the revenue it needs to provide the services the community demands. We're not a profit-making enterprise. We are here to provide city services. So as this team and I audited our general fund and looked around and said, where are we at the greatest risk of service impacts and cuts if we don't stabilize this? It was abundantly clear. It was across what I call the public safety continuum of care. I'm very proud of the city's values, ethics, and commitment to public safety, and that we don't just think of that as one piece. It's not just emergency response. It's what you kind of see in this wheel here. It is response, and I'm proud that we have very good response rates when you need emergency attention in the city, but it's also support. It's recognizing that we want to be a compassion-driven, human-centered safety system within our police department and across all the departments that are interacting with folks in a potential safety situation. And finally, it's accountability. We want to make sure that we hold ourselves accountable and that we hold our community accountable to meeting the laws and the codes that we have in the city. So when you say that and you kind of think of those 3 parts of a continuum of care, it's not just police, it's library, it's municipal court, it's many departments that play a role in providing all these services. And tonight you're going to hear a little more from the staff that lead those departments about what that looks like. So as I mentioned more broadly, demand for city services is outpacing revenue, but it's really acute in these areas. These are the teams where you're going to hear we have not been able to increase, or in fact, we've had to reduce staffing. We have not been able to maintain training needs as situations become more complex. And we are behind in investing in tools and resources we need to provide the services. So as your city manager, the reason I'm bringing this forward to you, as opposed to some other revenue ideas, is because this is where I feel our services are most at risk without stabilization and investment. Next slide. So this is the last slide I'm going to talk to, then I'm going to hand it over to the experts to really explain the what and the why. But why, I think it's a logical question, why are we seeing an increase in public safety demand greater than other demands in our system? And I think it's complex because there's a lot more complex community issues. Substance abuse is on the rise. The fentanyl epidemic has affected the entire Pacific Northwest and West Coast. Houselessness is something that we struggle with, and we are seeing an uptick in Milwaukie. Those 2 things and more lead to an increase in mental and behavioral health crises that we are grappling with. And then finally, economic pressures. You know, all of those 3 things I just mentioned are volatile compared to how the economy is doing. And we know the economy has been up and down. And then there's kind of a positive side of the coin too that I really want to say. We are proud in Milwaukie to have open arms to services we want to see, like affordable housing, like the new stabilization center, like the business growth we've seen downtown and the economic activity that's happening. Those are all wonderful things, and they also increase demand for public safety services. That's just data just supports that. When our Hillside, a wonderful development in the city, was already the highest source of calls to their PD, and it's going to more than double in population. These are things we want to see in Milwaukie, but we have to have eyes open that they will have a public safety impact. So what I'm going to do now is turn it over to Chief Burdick and then to Director Husher to talk a little bit about in their departments, in their worlds, how these issues, this increase in public safety demand is impacting their teams, their resources, and the services they provide to the community. Chief.
Thank you. So this next slide, since 2020, our calls have gone up approximately 21%. When I go to my area chiefs meeting, all the chiefs are seeing increased call volume. We're all dealing with short staffing. We are working our staff exceptionally hard. We have staff between 200 to 400 hours of overtime per year. And one of the things we're also trying to do is we're trying to keep up to make sure that we have the fast response times, that when you need us to be there, we are there. Next slide. Impact of the services. This is our incredible behavioral health specialist, Glenn Sekonic and Officer Morton. Glenn's with us tonight. I kind of refer to it as BGAG, before Glenn, after Glenn. This is an incredibly good model that we need to expand. But the problem is we only have Glenn Monday to Thursday. The impacts he has are tremendous. There's a chart of calls up there, and Glenn went with police officers 89 times. But he had almost 400 plus other type of contacts or touch points in this community. And when we talk about the service that we want to provide for the public safety, a quick anecdotal story is one of our officers pulled a man over for DUI, made the arrest. Man was at our police station on the intoxilizer and afterwards broke down and says, I can't quit drinking. I want to, I'm still trying to work, but I just can't stop. Instead of taking him to jail, Glenn worked with one of our local partners to see if there was room for him to do inpatient treatment that afternoon. He made that connection and we were able to get him into inpatient. So instead of just taking him to jail, here's your court date, he gets out the next day and likely continues to drive, continues to drink, he's getting the medical help. Those are the outcomes. Those are the smart, humane outcomes and financial outcomes that make the most sense. Next slide, please. We have a lot of missions to do. We have 33 sworn officers. When I started in 2002, we had more officers then than we do now. Not all the officers are active all the time. It takes a long time to train an officer. We've had more injuries the last 5 years than I've seen my first 20. We've had 3 officers hit by cars within the last 30 months. It is definitely dangerous out there. We had an officer shot in 2019. The sheriff's office had 2 deputies shot in Johnson Creek and Bell. The suspect just pled guilty to that last month and received 30 years. 18-month training for new officers. It takes a long time to hire, train, send to the academy, get them back for field training before they're solo ready to be released. We've had to implement mandatory 12-hour shifts, actually 2 times in the last several years, just because our staffing levels were so low. When we mentioned our behavioral health specialist, he only works Monday to Thursday. There's work all week long, 24/7. Overtime expenses, our overtime budget is averaged about $410,000, and it seems to keep going up because we don't have enough employees. We don't have enough working officers. Additional officers will help decrease that overtime rate.
I just want to share a quick anecdote that the chief filled me in on. You probably saw the news about the individual named Looney Tunes who shot at our officers and evaded arrest. That, like one incident, so this is, we've got major incidents frequently. Because of it was a middle of the night or wee hours, you have to call people in, you have to investigate it. That one incident generates $8,000-ish of overtime. So it's not just overtime because people want extra hours. It's the actual need of having folks meet the response. And you can't just say, oh yeah, finish your shift, come back and write that report later when it's something that someone's on the run and we're doing a major crime investigation.
When we have those large events, it's all hands at the pump. I think I got notified a little after midnight We all came in because we're working that event. And then we also have to maintain calls or ask for our partners' help, sheriff's office to maybe help with some calls. Portland showed up huge for us. And then working through the weekend to locate this suspect at large. He was located the following Monday, but then also he was located in an apartment complex. So then we rolled out the crisis negotiation team, SWAT team. We have personnel, Detective Meyer, she's amazing. She has our canine Flora. She's a detective. She's also on the crisis negotiation team and one of their main players. One of my patrol sergeants, he's a SWAT sniper. So they're going to these calls too. And the overtime rate for a significant incident is always several $1,000s. And that's very difficult to plan for. Next slide. So it's kind of speaking to all the hats they wear. We're members of regional task forces. Our agency takes the point on human trafficking missions in Clackamas County. We do an exceptional job for working prostitution-related missions or child trafficking. We have a SWAT CN team we're members of with participants. We're part of the county craft team, and that's basically the fatal or serious injury accident reconstruction team. We do other things too, retail theft missions. We're partners with the sheriff's office and other agencies. We did a mission at our new seasons. And those are important to do, to be proactive. The folks that are stealing at Town Center, they come into our community. And our community businesses, Charles Day Tool Company, they are a fantastic local company. They moved from Portland and have been incredibly happy to land in the city with just the type of community and the type of public safety. We're also very active with neighborhood meetings and events. We do the 7 neighborhood meetings and PSAC. Rarely do we miss meetings, but once in a while we do just because of operational needs or something. But that's something that's important to me, my the prior chiefs, that we're going to go to those. We're also going to attend the city events, Pride, Milwaukie Fest, Umbrella Parade, Shop with the Cop at Christmas time. That kind of outreaching and and community work is something we pride ourselves on. And when we interview candidates for new hire, we tell them, hey, you have to want to do the community work, because if you don't, we're probably not the right fit. You should work for another agency. And that's an intentional question we put out there to candidates.
Thanks, Chief. Much like the police department, oh, by the way, thank you for letting me share a little bit with you tonight. Much like the police department, in addition to those traditional roles, library staff are taking on other things to sort of support our community and those needs that are so acute. So what I want to do is just provide the context for how safety and our services apply within the library and how we are working in that continuum as well. And just give you a little bit of that context so you have that as you think about this conversation as we go forward. In many ways, the library is really the busiest it's been in the past decade. So I want to talk, we're still doing those traditional services. We're still serving families. We're still serving adults. We're doing programming. We're getting those materials to people. All those traditional things. And with the advent of the new library, we also have public spaces for our community. We have the community room. We have the conference room. We have those study rooms. We are seeing 600 to 800 people in our library every day in this community. That is a number that in this past fiscal year is approaching 250,000 people. So nearly 250,000 people walking through those doors. So we're doing all those good things, and mostly it's a good time at the library. But like when bad things happen, it's pretty bad. And we'll talk about some specific numbers, and we'll talk about how police and other community partners are sort of supporting us. But we'll also talk about what that impact is for the library staff when we don't have that support. Because the police can't be at the library all the time, and our folks have to sort of think on their feet and sort of serve the folks who come on in. Excuse me. And just for fun, because I'm a numbers guy, this is the most, libraries use sort of data points so you can compare other libraries. And it's a way to sort of compare over the arc of time how you're doing. This was the most items circulated in the last 10 years. We issued the most cards that I saw on record in fiscal year 24 at over 4,192 new cards. If you look back the previous 10 years, it was in the more like 1,500 to 2,500, so approaching double the new accounts. And again, you heard about all the numbers of people walking in the door. Come by and see us. It's not a sleepy library. So we still have to do those traditional services, but we also have expanded the services to meet the needs of this community and their acute needs. We work with Milwaukie Police and Glenn, our behavioral health specialist, and Don with F1 and 40 and other social services providers to provide direct drop-in services, direct connections on Tuesday mornings. But here's the thing about that. That's one morning a week. We are open to the community 7 days a week, and people know that we are a resource. And when people come in and they have those acute needs, we're still the ones trying to connect and facilitate those connections, even if those partners aren't there. So we continue to do that. There's nearly daily triage where our staff is connecting those people to those social services, those needs. We also have the monthly parole and probation drop-in. This is an interesting program. It really is a way for those clients to also receive services in a safe and neutral place. Those folks are being housed, those folks are getting food assistance, and it's also helping with excuse me. Oh, thank you. It's time for a nap. But here, and finally, I think you all know, the library's commitment to the extended cooling hours for heat events. Even though that is a citywide effort, there are managers and staff across the city and even some folks at this dais who have sort of helped provide those cool spaces. The library takes a large role of sort of creating those safe spaces there as well. By the numbers, in the last fiscal year, there were 171 clients who were served directly at those Tuesday morning outreach with police, Love One, 4D, and others. There were 288 folks served at parole and probation drop-in sessions. At the library, we've also found that community members who are hydrated and have some food in their system tend to also do better in our public spaces. And we provided 1,327 water bottles or granola bars in that last fiscal year. In an extended hours cooling center, there were 7 last summer, and there have been 2 so far this year. Maybe another one coming up next week, we'll see. Okay, so then finally, specifically the safety issues and support needs. In fall, about 2 years ago, we implemented a system that recorded our incidents at the library as well as notations on social services referrals. In that 2-year period, we've recorded 323 severe incidents or social service referrals. 35% of those, or just over a third, really did require a response from police, our behavioral specialist, or a social worker. These numbers are a good proxy, but they're also certainly an undercount because Kelly and Jana, our 2 managers, are regularly in contact with our chief and our captains, our behavioral health specialists. We're all on text groups and we're sort of trying to connect very, very regularly. Safety and support by the numbers, though. In addition, during that 2-year period, there have been 67 calls to 911 or non-emergency, 21 referrals to behavioral health specialists, 24 referrals to F1. There have been 97 incidents of disruptive behavior. This is where I go back to say, most of the time it's really great at the library, but there are also these moments where we really are managing some very difficult situations. And we have good response time. I hope we continue to have good response time and we have good partnerships, but they're not always there. And like this team who isn't trained to necessarily do these things are doing a marvelous job. There have been 80 incidents of harassment, 26 incidents of making threatening statements or assaults, 10 incidents of destruction of city properties. But sort of on the need side, I can tell you incidences of people walking in without shoes or without a coat or without shirts, and our staff making sure that they walk out with those things. I can tell you about folks in full crisis. My staff, including me, have like approached people in full tears. I can tell you about the time that folks have walked out of the library to people crying that they've lost everything from a fire and trying to make that connection even though they were leaving work so we could get them connected. Multiple examples of that. But there are also like these dangerous moments of people sort of like in full crisis mode, like throwing things off the shelves. There have been multiple incidents of people charging at our library staff. They're not trained to take care of charging people. And one incident before I started of a commuter monitor being thrown in the space. So
A what?
a commuter monitor being thrown across the room. So I say all that. It's not the norm, but like there are these, that's also what we're doing in addition to the beautiful things of our programming, the summer events that you actually talked about at the start of this meeting, in fact. Those things are also happening. Okay, so next slide. The library, come on visit. So then there really are resources challenges for the library too. And we have a very small management team. There's a director and 2 managers for a 7-day operation. And with nearly daily incidents, that really puts a lot of pressure on that team. As I mentioned, our staff are not trained social workers or behavioral health specialists or trained safety responders, but they are doing their best. In this period, basically since fiscal year 2021, we've been at an FT, or full-time equivalent, of 18.25. But 10 years ago, it was about 2.17 more, or 87 more hours of support. But as you can see from earlier, like many of our numbers are back to levels that are comparative. We're still trying to do the same services. And then we also are doing these extended services with fewer people. And then I guess finally, I would just leave with, we do have a strong relationship with MPD. Their response is good. I love working with Glenn and Love One. We're all doing our part. But as we heard, Glenn is Monday through Thursday. My library is Monday through Sunday. And folks are in need every one of those days. So that's my library piece.
You may have heard some recent news stories out of our neighbor to the north about a very different situation where the library and police relationship is not strong. So I'm so grateful that we've built that true continuum of care. And it keeps me up at night, wondering what's going to happen when those daily incidents require a call and you don't have enough staff to respond. So I'm going to quickly touch on the court piece. I don't have time to dive too deep here, but that's the third leg of this kind of continuum of care is accountability. We did reduce court FTE during COVID, and that was, again, us being prudent fiscal stewards. We had a real decrease in citations and the need for that workload. It has totally returned. We are back at pre-pandemic levels, trials are back, and we have 1 staff member for all of court. She's amazing, and I'm proud of our court being efficient, responsive, effective, and supportive. And I worry that with 1 staff member, we just aren't going to be able to maintain those kinds of service levels if the citations continue to grow. So next slide. So you've heard a lot about needs. You've heard a lot about things that keep us up at night and things where we are feeling so thin that all the good stories you've heard become more and more harder for us to sustain and maintain. So this team kind of looked across and said, we're going to try to be really frugal and prudent here, but where would those investments, where are they most essential? You've heard Glenn mentioned so many times, you've heard BG, AG, we need another Glenn. We absolutely need another Glenn. If we could have an additional behavioral health specialist, the community would see more than just that Monday through Thursday ability to provide compassionate response. We'd be able to meet those needs that do not have a weekday focus. We would want to invest in a dedicated training officer at MPD. I have high standards for the police department, as does chief, and we do our level best to meet those standards. But I will be honest with you that with the lean staffing, the mandatory 12-hour shifts, we can't keep up with the level of training that we would like to on things like de-escalation and anti-bias training and firearms training. And having a dedicated training officer is going to help allow us to do that and really walk our talk on all of those values. We do need more patrol officers to get that overtime number down, to get to a place where we are feeling confident about meeting that minimum 3 required 24/7. We absolutely do need more patrol officers. We need more support for the library. All those things that Brent talked about, we're providing the library services, but there's a whole suite of safety work that's happening there too. And it's unfair and unsustainable to rely on the wonderful staff we have to do those things. The PD is a great partner, but again, we've got to shore this up and not just hope that will always be a resource we can call on. And then finally, court. I just think it's a supply demand issue, and I think we need we need more capacity there to do more efficient processing of tickets, trials, and citations. So the brilliant Mike, who's going to take this over from me in a second, took that wish list and said, what would be the price tag if we made the investments that we need across this continuum of care? And you're looking at about $900,000 to $1 million annually. Now, that doesn't necessarily have to all be pure new revenue. I think we all feel that if we can bring in some revenue, we can reduce overtime costs. There's kind of a magic equation there. But I just want to be transparent that is really that target that we could hit, that I think would make us all sleep a little better at night. Not that we're going to be, doubling service levels or anything. We're just maintaining those minimum great standards that we have, our communities come to expect. Next slide. So I think I'm going to hand it over to Mike now and talk about why a utility fee is where we landed as a proposal.
Thank you. So how are we going to pay for this investment? First, I'm a resident here, so when I drive in, I don't take adding a fee lightly to the utility bill. I'm adding a fee to myself, my neighbors, my friends. I think back to what Chief said on how the staffing levels have fallen since when he started here in the early 2000s, and I see the need for the investment. I see the need that the first couple slides gave with calls increasing. So I just want to start by saying this impacts me as a resident. How we propose to pay for this investment is through adding a public safety fee to the utility bill. And that'd be much similar to SAFE and SSMP, which I'll get into in a minute. We want to add this rate to the city's consolidated fee schedule that you council set each year. You would have the ability to review annually based on needs. We can kind of assess, like, is the rate working? Are we bringing in more than we expected or less than we expected? And much like utility rates, it gives us the opportunity to evaluate the fee to keep up with kind of demands. Analogy that Emma had brought up is like a utility system with water and infrastructure. As the infrastructure kind of slides, you need to tinker with the rates to bring them up in order to keep that sustainable. That's kind of where we're thinking where the public safety fee goes as we gauge the community's need for public safety. We can, on a yearly basis, kind of look at those and see, do we need more officers, less officers, how are we doing? So it gives you a mechanism to review each year. We went around and looked at other Oregon cities who have a similar utility bill or fee. You can see these are just a couple that we've picked out. I did a poll of regional cities kind of around here, Oregon City, like Oswego and things. Oregon City has a $6.50 fee. currently on their utility bill. In financial circles, this is becoming a popular way for revenue to support different public safety needs. Because measures 5 and 50 have constrained revenues, this is the mechanism that a lot of other cities are looking at. And as I reached out to my counterparts today, there was a lot of, let us know how that goes so that we can look into it ourselves. So I think this is a trend that's becoming popular. Getting to the proposed rate. So I went through and worked on a number of different scenarios on kind of where we would be and the annual revenue that would come out of it. This is modeled much like SAFE. The majority of the fee would be coming from single-family residents. And you can see that 4 different tiers go from $5 for residential, kind of a $3 for multifamily, that's apartment buildings and complexes, that ranges all the way up to $6. And then we listened to your feedback from earlier when we were going through this, talking about this through the budget committee phase. And we're doing a tiered approach on commercial. And that would range based on trips data, on the amount of trips that are generated to each of the commercial type businesses. And we've ranged that from a $5 a month minimum fee to a $50 a month maximum fee. So it kind of spreads out through there. We also wanted to exclude low-income residents on this. So if you're in our low-income program, this fee would not apply to those individuals. So based on the monthly revenue fee that you all would recommend, it drives the annual revenue anywhere from $635,000 a year to $1.1 billion per year. And kind of as Emma noted before, that I'd like to think that this money is also working for us in that if we bring in more police, we can't eliminate overtime, but we can bring that number down so that we can find ways to help when we do those annual look at the rates to make sure that we're meeting the need. Hopefully that revenue, that overtime number will come down so we can kind of reallocate and relook at the rate on a yearly basis. So we've been doing, the chief and I and Emma and Brent have been doing a community conversation outreach tour. We began this really last year in fall when we went before the budget committee and we're looking at financial stability strategies. That's when it started. In May, I went to budget committee and we pitched kind of loosely this idea and got feedback. Emma has went to the equity steering committee in July. Chief and I went to the public safety advisory committee earlier this year. We're with you here now. We're going to talk about it next week at the budget committee as well. Brent's going to bring it up to the library board. We put this into the pilot and the NDA newsletter, putting that out. We also put together a 2-page front and back kind of synopsis of this PowerPoint just to hand out here at City Hall for people that have questions, just kind of talking points on why this is such a big deal. And we're having on August 13th a community Q&A town hall downstairs in the Dogwood room where the 4 of us are going to be down there answering questions, going over this PowerPoint and listening to community feedback. And then we're hoping to have this all coincide with the vote on August 19th, where we would bring before you a resolution to add this fee to the fee schedule. If passed, we would hope to adopt it in fall of 2025 this year, and then move forward from there.
So Mayor, this is our last slide. It's sort of some questions we would like to get direction on tonight about, are you supportive of us putting this on the agenda for August 19th for a vote? And if so, Michael showed you 4 rate scenarios. We'd like to get some direction on what you'd like to see in that proposal. I know you've got some testimony here that you'd like to take, and I just want to end on kind of one note. I think there've been some good questions of why are we doing this now? Why not just wait and do it in the spring as part of the budget process? The true answer is just the acute need. As you heard from the chief, it takes 18 plus months to hire and train new police officers. I really am being honest when I say this is stuff that keeps me up at night. It's those PITS reports I see out of the library. And so I just feel like the need is acute. And you will be able to adjust the rate if you'd like at the next, you actually can adjust it anytime by resolution, but we review the consolidated fee schedule annually as part of that kind of budget cycle. And so that's why we chose to bring this on this schedule, was just that need and the need really to be urgently taking action to fill these service gaps.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to wait on these questions till after we take our public testimony, but I wanted to invite counselors to ask any sort of clarifying questions they might have of staff if they wanted any clarification of anything that was presented.
I have a couple questions, Mayor. Thank you for the presentation. On there were a couple of slides back, a reference to low income accounts. And it had $1,000 in there. I was wondering if you could elaborate on that a little bit and if that, like how that trend is defined, what accounts kind of go into that. Can you give us more information?
We have a low-income residential program that we administer, and I think it's based on HUD standards.
Okay.
And I've kind of done a loose calculation of how many in each of the different categories, how many people that affects. It could be more or minus off, but that's just kind of an estimate for it. So I'm subtracting that out of the, if they were in single family or multifamily residence to get to that number.
Okay. So I guess, is it based on a retrospective look back of accounts in the previous year? So I'm wondering if we need to take a larger number into account with Hillside coming online.
So Hillside is going to be exempt from that because of property taxes.
Oh, I
They
see.
receive a
Okay.
utility bill,
Yeah.
so I don't think they would be, but
Yeah, we can.
Utility bills, or is it paid by the building? I mean, is it one utility bill to the whole building?
It's one utility bill
to the housing authority. Mhm.
There is an interesting question. Yeah.
So I'm just wondering, if it's a look back on the number of low income accounts that existed in the last year, then that will be skewed by, quadrupling or whatever, 5 times. Yes.
I think it's a great point, Counselor, and I think, we also have an affordability goal. And so, our
Yeah.
team has done a lot of work to make sure our utility assistance program is clearly communicated, is advertised, is when we are hearing people who are in distress paying their utility bill, we're connecting them to it. I assume our accounts enrolled will increase. I do, and I think it's an important assumption to make. So I think it wouldn't be a bad thing to assume that line of the minus is going to be higher.
So I'll be clear, I'm not criticizing that program at all in this and not criticizing anything actually in this question. I just want to make sure that the numbers are accurate as we're considering tiered approaches to this, and as we're giving direction for this to move forward, I want to make sure that those estimates include a forecasting of future growth within that program. I also have a question about the schedule for the behavioral health officers, or officer and community partners. So, hey Glenn, if Glenn is working, or if that position is working, Monday through Thursday, is that usually daytime hours?
Typically, yes.
Okay, because, and I guess I'm thinking, there's definitely a need for a million Glens, and Dons. And I think that this is a good expansion, to provide that behavioral health support. I'm noticing more and more, around our community, just in general, and very acute instances, which have prompted me to train our staff on de-escalation strategies and make sure that we have protocols in place. Because, folks will be escalating and they'll come in to the shop. So, but that kind of stuff happens all the time. And I'm wondering if with the new expanded, let's say this moves forward and you're able to add another FTE to that, would that be just more weekdays, or would it be additional hours, like off the normal work day hours?
We haven't landed on a set schedule yet, but the initial thoughts was to do Wednesday to Saturday.
Okay.
So they'd have one day, excuse me, 2 days that they can overlap and do some combined efforts to help each other. Or treat it, Glenn also inevitably has something that comes up towards the end of his work week, hand it off to the other person. That other person could be working maybe a 10 a.m. start time to a little bit later. But we do have the behavioral health team in the county as a backstop, and I do believe they're 24 hours.
Okay.
The 23-hour center will come online roughly October, November. That would be another
Okay.
tool in the
Another
toolbox.
resource. Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
Other questions?
Yeah, can I kind of follow down this line of questioning as well? Your 2,000, so you provide 4 different options for tiering. But earlier you say we hope to raise between 900 and over $1 million in funding. So it seems to me the only viable tier would be the last one. Am I wrong?
To be clear,
Yeah.
we were being honest that if we were making all the investments we feel we need just to meet these acute needs, it would have a price tag of about 900,000 to $1 million. So yes, the only one of these scenarios that fully funds that is this last one. We do feel that in making these investments will reduce overtime costs, which then is a return back to the general fund and supports this. So I believe we can meet those needs we articulated on that screen without hitting the exact 900,000 to $1 million target. And I should also have said on that slide, all of these proposals will be proposed through the budget process, whether that is through a quarterly budget adjustment or through our biennial budget adoption. So we wanted to be transparent about kind of how we got that general target we're searching for, but there's still the budgeting process and the budgeting analysis that we will bring forward.
That's helpful. Let's take that. I kind of want to return to that, but looking at these low income numbers, is the 2,000 on that upper tier $2,000 or is it 2,000 accounts?
$2,000.
$2,000 a month.
If we look at $2,000 a month and divide it by a $6 fee, we're looking at 333 households that have that low income qualification. If we look at all about 9,000 plus units of affordable or of housing in Milwaukie, that would be about 3% of Milwaukie households that qualify for the low income program, or a 3% utilization rate. Is that reflective of what we're actually seeing? And I guess where is that low income threshold? Because I would have thought it would be higher than 3%.
I don't have that data tonight. I can look into that.
But I think we can definitely say it is, your math is pretty spot on. It's probably not every low income account in the city is currently being served by the low income utility assistance program. The efforts we're taking to increase awareness of that through the affordability goal, connect people to it, will I believe increase those numbers. I do think on the hillside piece, because they are exempt now, It's not actually a net loss of revenue because the new units would just continue to be exempt. But I will say there's a policy trade-off here. I mentioned that Hillside's the largest generating property of calls. So we would be exempting that property from there. But we modeled this on the transportation safe and SSMP rates, which do exempt those low-income accounts. So I do think we have work to do to make sure our low-income utility assistance program meets the needs of all of those who apply for it or who meet the thresholds in their community. And we utilize the HUD thresholds for those qualification rates.
And can I clarify then, I was looking for in the packet, what is the threshold for the low income utility relief program? Is it 40,000? I thought I read somewhere. But
It
maybe I'm making that up.
is, let me just pull it up. It's in our equity section. It's $43,000 for a single person residence and up to $62,000 for a residence with up to 4 people.
Okay.
The guidelines for the housing choice voucher program.
And I think we often talk about the average income of a Milwaukie household would be about $80,000. So I'm curious, what percent of Milwaukie households do you think would qualify, or outside of utilization, would qualify for the low income program?
I don't want to speculate on that without doing but we can bring that back on the 19th. We can look at census data and figure that out.
And I guess this is where I go through this line of questioning to get at this. We kind of forecast 3% utilization for a program that aims to hit, let's say, 30% of Milwaukie households. And that gap, I think, to me is worrying because we're building a budget projection on the assumption that a program for low-income Milwaukeeans is not actually utilized to its full extent. And so I'd like to just understand that a little bit more, like where we're seeing this in the forecast, especially with all of our efforts to increase that utilization rate.
So what I can do, we can crunch some numbers with census data on income and share that out. We can do that before by email before the 19th, so you have that data. But this is an accurate reflection of the current registrants of the low income utility assistance program.
Thank you. I had a question going back a slide or two to the one about sort of the listing of another one. No, probably that one. Okay, nope, that one. So it's a behavioral health specialist, a training officer, and then it's kind of vague about how many positions we're talking about. So can you add a little clarity, or is that you're thinking some of them will be phased in later?
It's a great question, Mayor. And yes, the way that we arrived at the target was by, making some assumptions about a number of patrol officers we'd be targeting, and a number or a type of staff we'd be looking at supplementing the library with. The reason you don't see specific numbers there is because we want to respect the budgeting process, and we're right now not asking you to take a vote on a budget adjustment. We'd want to make sure we evaluate all of that, as those things come up. For transparency, these assumptions were made with 4 patrol officers, 2 to 3 additional patrol officers, 2 staff at the library, and 1 more staff at the court. But I've out of respect again for the budget process and for just for the desire for us to be really intentional about filling the needs that we have at a certain moment. Where those will fall on the salary scale, where they will, exactly what their portfolio will be is to be determined through the budget process.
Okay. But you're looking at 8, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people probably. And 8 people, I realize not all of them are going to be at the same budget, at the same salary scale, but 8 people plus the benefits for 8 people, that doesn't sound like a big enough number to me, actually. Is that a big enough number for 8 staff and their benefits packages? Okay. Fair enough.
I have more specific numbers here. Looking at the average amount that we spend per FTE in our budget, we spend about 300,000 per FTE. And so this assumption would be about 200,000 or about 33% less.
I don't think that $300,000 figure per FTE is accurate, because I think that's a straight just division of our personnel by number of FTE. And if you look at the, where these positions would fall on the salary scale, I don't think it would. I back my finance director who took the wish list of positions, worked with his payroll specialist to put the benefits numbers together and come up with this estimate.
Okay, before we take public testimony, any other clarifying questions? Okay, and I will ask you guys to maybe step back, and we have one person who's filled out a yellow card. Do you have anybody else? Do we have anybody online you think who is looking to testify? Okay, so we'll call up Mr. Crawford. We will give you 3 minutes, which is our typical public testimony time. And Mr. Crawford lives on Jackson Street, so that's the Hector Campbell neighborhood, I believe. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, thank you for allowing me to come and speak. I'm glad I stayed to see the transparency now, because we saw no transparency here. All you see is safe, the bottom of your water bill, and another fee. I've lived in Milwaukie since 1962. I came from Southeast Portland. I've been working since I was 15. Been paying taxes ever since in Milwaukie. So when you get hit with a bill, especially as seniors, we get hit with a bill, we start focusing on not only the bill, where's the money going to come from? Opposite end of the spectrum. She was talking about the infants and the kids. How about the seniors? How about somebody that's lived in Milwaukie, for 76 years or above? Is there going to be a break for them? I heard everything that I heard was so important. And I have to stop and think. I feel so sorry for the police department. I feel sorry for the library. And it stems from something, doesn't it? It stems from drugs. I lost my son at 40, to drugs. So I know a little bit about them. I was very naive up until that point, until the loss of a child. We've got to stop the drugs. Now, the people that are coming to the library, I can see right through him. I know exactly what he's seeing on a daily basis. I was in the military for 26 years. I retired as a director of the Oregon Military Academy in Monmouth, Oregon. I was surprised to see how much they get out of Monmouth, right? But it needs to be specific. It needs to be, I'll pay for that police officer. I pay for that police officer through my property taxes. My property taxes went from $1,200 on a home on 45th off of Lake Road, $1,200, it's $5,000. Okay, when I retired as a licensed carrying electrician and a member of the military here in Oregon, I made $53,000 a year. Now you just hit a fee of $40,000, right? So how am I going to justify more and more money going out when we don't have any coming in? We'll get a 2% as a senior. We get a 2%, right? Medicare takes it. See the tape? It's always in the tape. Now, if you're transparent and we look at our water bill, we go, why in the world aren't we paying through the water bill? Why can't we just honestly say that Milwaukie Police Department needs a couple of more officers? I don't mind paying for that, and I don't mind paying for the library. I really don't. But it should
I've got to
be...
hop in. You're at your 3-minute time, so if you could wrap it up.
Okay, I'm getting close to my time. Thank you.
You go. Yep.
Thank you. Well, I don't want to be a broken record. I want to thank you for allow me to listen to everything that was going on, because it is important. It is important. And I feel for I feel for the seniors right now because everybody that I'm talking to in Milwaukee right now is considering, after all of these years, of moving out of Milwaukee because of the taxes. And there's nothing for that senior that hits 75 years old. And there's something that we tried to get through the bills. We tried to get it approved and it never happened. They need to do something for the seniors as much as they need to do for the young children. I'm serious. But I want to thank you people. Thank you for what you do. And thank you for allowing me to speak.
And thank you for coming tonight.
Thanks so much.
And yeah, I will say senior homelessness is on the rise. We know it. There's been some statistics on that and all the, it is another challenge in the community for sure. But in terms of how we pay for this, I mean, we have constrictions. We have limits on the actual property tax from the state, the measures 5 and 50 that were passed back in the 1990s. So this is the way, as you saw, most cities are trying to fill those gaps, is on the utility bills. That is all that's really left to us after the property tax, in light of the property tax restrictions. Okay, so nobody online and nobody else in the room wanting to testify? Okay, you mentioned that we got 2 pieces of correspondence. I saw one from Sarah Wolf, but I did not see another one.
The first was from Elvis Clark and it was received last week and was in the packet.
Oh, it was, okay, great. Okay, with that, if there's no more public testimony, invite staff to come back up, or maybe just Michael or whatever. Or maybe it's just a matter of council deliberation at
Come
this
up,
point.
and if we need Brent and Ryan, we'll summon you. And then Michael, if you want to, we can skip around the slides, of course, but if you want to just go to the questions, what we really need to walk away with some direction, the last slide with the questions. One before, yeah. We need to walk away with just clarity and of direction, and or if there's further information you need before you can weigh in on these questions.
Would it be helpful to put the rates back up so you can see the rate structured tiers?
Okay, anyone want to jump in? Go ahead, Council President.
I guess I've got a few just clarifications that I would love to see ahead of an actual vote, or as you're putting together more information about this. The first, I think, Emma, outside of all the work that your team has done on this package, you've also been doing a really important organizational assessment to see where are the needs in our city, how can we address all of the programs and kind of commitments that we've made to our residents versus what we're actually capable of doing. And I kind of see 7 different staff positions that overlap in that organizational assessment in this program here. A deputy court clerk, a library assistant manager, a library assistant, a sergeant, 1 to 2 police officers, and a behavioral health specialist. I guess I still have questions about how if those are the 7 positions that we're trying to fund. I would love to see more of a direct breakdown about what we anticipate the cost of those 7 positions will be versus the revenue here. To understand, like, I don't want to make a promise in those 7 positions that we aren't able to follow through on because we don't get the revenue that we expect or we aren't able to do that. I think it is, when we talk about the need that we see in the city, like, these are really core needs that people are experiencing, people want addressed. And I would hate to, if you're going to raise taxes or fees, I would hate to do it not being able to actually deliver on the need that we're seeing.
Absolutely. It's a very fair question, Council President. And I'll, I think this has been, and I really appreciate the testimony. I agree that the specificity and transparency is incredibly important. thank you for reading my organizational assessment, materials and being aware of that. We can provide that breakdown, but I wanted to respect that this is not a budget process right now. The budget process and the annual rate setting that we do in accordance with the budget is where we are very, here's our infrastructure needs, here's our staffing needs, here's our resource, here's all of it in a big book and how the rates connect. I mentioned this in the presentation. The reason I didn't want to wait on this is because of that acute need to get going on filling these gaps. We're not going to fill that whole list of yellow, needs immediately. We're going to prioritize even that. We're going to do that through quarterly budget asks to you and the budget committee. But I feel the elements you see there are so important and so delayed. And the 18-month hiring lag time freaks me out. That's why I wanted to bring it here. Now, again, we can show, the calculations of, how that target number was reached. But I do want to be transparent and respect that, I'm not here with a budget ask for you right now, because I want to, see, as we do with everything, kind of see where the revenues coming in and what our expenditures out need to be and make those proposals. I think that that's an advantage of a revenue strategy like this, is that this can be dialed up and dialed down. This would be getting the much needed investment starting to come in the door so we can be ready to act on those needs as soon as possible. I hope that helps.
I think that does. My slight pushback would be, this isn't a budget process, but we're inevitably going to have that conversation, and I want to make sure that we, whether or not we decide to fund those seven positions, if that's a route that we choose to go towards, I want to make sure that we have the funds to.
I hear you, and that's why, again, we wanted to be clear, that some of what we're proposing here, and I could have come in with just that final column and said, this is what we need to get all those things on the wish list. But I think that this is an investment strategy conversation for you, with then a budget ask to follow, rather than I need this to pay for this right now. So this is about financial stability, and we wanted to show you different scenarios you can consider from a policymaking perspective that begin that stream of investment.
Other thoughts?
First, I just want to thank you, sir, for spending this time with us this evening and waiting for so long to testify. Thank you, first off, for your service to our country. I greatly appreciate that, and for your commitment to our city and community. It's a long time to be in a place and raise a family and commit your life to. So I appreciate that, and I think what we also have to recognize is what the opposite side of the coin to these measures would have been, which would have been a property tax increase. That's the only other funding mechanism we really have. And if we were to do a property tax increase, you're probably looking at anywhere between $20 to $30 extra a month, as opposed to a $7 fee each month. The positive part about this too is the fact that if you do a tax increase, when was the last time a tax decrease has been on any ballot anywhere? So those tax increases are most likely permanent. These fees don't have to be. And that's the other leverage that it gives us. Instead of binding people to a tax increase, that seems to be the only solution that governments typically lean on. We're trying to find another mechanism with the leverages that we have to be able to still maintain what we have, while also giving us an opportunity to reduce those costs in the future if we see that our budget is a little higher than it needs to be, right? So I just want to make clear that the other side probably would have cost everybody more. Now we do have a senior population just as much as we do young families, and I think with the affordability goal, that's something that we're looking at and we're taking into consideration as well, because we do have a pretty big fixed income population, and that's a fixed income population that doesn't deserve to be forced out because they can no longer afford to be here. And again, that's where the affordability goal has come in, because we are actively looking at opportunities where we can help people save money on their water bills. in my hopes, what I'm aiming for is to be able to provide enough incentive to where the incentive could eat the fee and therefore not even be an increase, not even feel it as an increase. That's my goal. But as far as this fee goes, obviously it's needed. I learned something new when I heard the chief say that the police department has actually gone down in officers since 2002. It's kind of the opposite direction that you want it to go, especially right now. I think we've seen a lot of this isn't just about the revenue, it's about the pressures that our officers have been under over the last few years, and how we keep, as a public, and rightfully so, we demand almost near perfection out of them. Well, if that's what we want and that's what we expect out of our police officers and our police department, then we need to be able to give them the funding that they need to provide that type of service. And as somebody that's served in the military, 12-hour shifts are not easy when you're expected to be at your tip-top best, and your split-second decision is a matter of life and death between you and a person in front of you, right? So that's a heavy lift, and that doesn't give you much time to go home and be with your family, decompress. You got 12 hours to get sleep, decompress, be with your family, eat, take care of yourself. It's not a very healthy lifestyle, and we're asking these individuals to make the best decisions they can at every second of every day, of every week, of every month, so forth. So I feel like this does a multitude of things. It's helping us close the budget gap. It's helping us increase the services. I mean, you saw some of the statistics. One of them, which is concerning, is that Milwaukie has the highest rate of overdoses. And sir, I'm with you. I lost my sister to substance use, unfortunately. And we've heard a lot of countless stories of that. And I do think that these investments are not an investment in the city's coffers, but an investment in the community that we're here to serve, and an investment in what we value. And with all that said, I do, of the options on here, if we're looking at options, I would prefer we start with the $7 option, because that's one that we've talked about from the beginning, and I would hate to go higher than that. With the amount of limited time that we're expected to pass this thing or vote on it. I do appreciate the amount of outreach we're doing. I'm not opposed to doing more, listening tour of some sort. Being a part of that. I'll be there for that town hall too. I would love to be a part of that, because I don't feel that it's just on staff to explain this. I feel it's on us as well. And yeah, I think we should start at that $7 one. I appreciate all the work's that gone into it, because it's not easy. And I'm a huge affordability guy. I don't take these lightly either. I probably complain the most about the fees, to be honest with you. But I feel like this is a much better path than a property tax increase at a time like this, when we don't even know, some people don't even know what's going to happen in the next 6 months.
So you're saying your preference is for this $7 fee, and you're okay with voting on it on the 19th?
I am. I mean, I would like to, I do wish we had a little bit more, because this is new right now. Everything on here is pretty new. The tiering is pretty new. So if we were to do something, like if we were to go with the higher rate, I think we would need more time to explain to people, because we've been pitching this on the $7.
Well, I mean, we've been talking $7 sort of in some of our meetings. I don't know how much we've been talking to the public.
No, but that's what I'm saying is that's what's on record.
Yeah,
right? We've been talking $7.
Yeah.
And people since May have been having to adjust to that. I think if we were to take a $10 approach, I think we'd need even more time to explain that part. But with $7, and with what we have planned between now and August, considering the timeline we're on, crunch-wise, I think it is.
Okay. I will agree that, as I said, after Mr. Crawford spoke, we are constrained by measures 5 and 50. Interestingly, Milwaukie is one of only 2 cities in Clackamas County that has some ability to raise our tax rate, but we would have to go to the voters for that. It would require much more, public, outreach, a campaign, and we have other things in the works, such as our parks system, where we may need to go to the voters at some future date. So I would agree that this is the better move than going to the voters on a property tax at this juncture. But I do think it is somewhere Milwaukie may need to go in the years ahead. And I too agree that I'm also thinking that the $7 rate is the way to go. All right, I guess Council President.
I can also wait if you want to jump. Yep.
So, first of all, I appreciate the fact that the proposal has come in with a mix of personnel that reflects the continuum of care that we're trying to deliver. And I'm just appreciative that we didn't get a proposal that says give us 7 police officers, okay? Because to me that misses the mark. So I appreciate the fact that we've got this mix. I will say that we can analyze this to death. I'm not a proponent of that because I think that money has a value in time, and that cash flow needs to be started as soon as we can make a decent decision. And so I'm ready to vote on August 19th, and I too would endorse the $7 third option. And the reason for that is when I look at the number, it's the annual revenue is 841. So the projection was 9 million to 1.1 million. Okay, so it's close. It's not over. The 10 is over. So that's kind of why I settled on a little bit under. And it may not get us there, but it might. It may. It's close. It'll get us going. And as Councilor Body said, this has some flexibility in turning this spigot on and up and down. And so I'm ready to vote on the 19th, and I'm in column 3.
Sounds almost like a straw poll. So I'll round that out and say that I have, that I support the $7 proposal. I think that this is, I think a lot of jurisdictions are going this route because there's just not a mechanism built into the funding for local government across Oregon. And we've been feeling the pinch of that for probably the last 10, 15 years, but now it's becoming very, very acute. And I think that at a state level, we are going to have to reevaluate some really short-sighted measures. And I know that's a big conversation, and it's bigger than just Milwaukie, but otherwise we're going to have to piecemeal revenue streams together for a system that really just is financially inadequate to support the need in our communities. So, I don't know that I have anything more than that, that hasn't already been echoed by my colleagues. I just appreciate that we're all on the same page and supporting this. It's really important for our community.
Yeah, I'll echo a lot of the sentiments here. I appreciate the work that's gone in, and I appreciate how clearly you've articulated the need, and what we see. I really have a few semantic questions that I'd like discussed on the 19th or data brought back. The first is the question about FTE. I would feel uncomfortable whether or not this is a budget conversation. I would like the ability to fully fund the positions that you've made a compelling pitch for. And I want to understand that if we take on this fee, that we'd be able to do that. And if you don't believe that's possible, I'd like to understand that now. Or if you do think it's possible, I'd like to really understand why. I'd like a little more clarity on the utilization rate for the low-income accounts. Why it's so low, why it's at 3% as compared to the actual percent in Milwaukie, whatever that might be. What we're trying to do to expand utilization, what that would look like budgeted into it. I think that there's, to me, a real disconnect in what our goal is for the program and what we see here. And I just want to understand that a little bit better. I think the other thing that I'm a little bit curious here, so on the tiers, you have a $5 residential, $5 residential, 7 residential, 10 residential. The multifamily number jumps around a little bit differently. Can you just explain how you ended up at $4.2 for multifamily? And what I guess I look at the 841 number, and that is lower than the low end estimate that you gave us of what we need. And I'm trying to think of creative ways in which we can get closer to the 900,000. I'd much rather be in that range than below it or above it. And so is there flexibility in that multifamily number to get us closer to the 90,000? And maybe that's some options. I think we're all aligned on the $7 for residential that you presented, but seeing more clarity around what different multifamily numbers would do for the final number might be helpful. But I had a question embedded in there somewhere.
No, I just to reiterate what I heard from you, Council President, we can follow up with further data on current utilization of the low income utility assistance program, comparing that to the population, and then projections potentially, for the work that we're planning to do with the affordability goal. 2 is further specificity on the assumptions on FTE behind that projected target, which again, I just kind of want to say, like, there's unknowns too. So, we'll tell you what the assumptions were based on, and we'll still use the budget process for those kind of specific presentations and asks. And then, I think that was what did I miss? Multifamily. Yes, multifamily. Yeah. And great question. And I'll let Michael answer, where maybe that 4.2 came from. There's a lot of ways you can slice and dice this. I think when we first brought it to you as kind of just let's throw it out the wall and see if it sticks, it was 7 all around. 7 multifamily, 7 residential, and 7 commercial. We really heard you on the tiered commercial. And so I think modeling that on the SAFE program was the most logical methodology for us to follow. But yeah, Mike, you want to talk a little bit about the multifamily scenarios?
So option 2 was kind of just a flat residential, multifamily and residential at the same. And these numbers, however you want to construct them, I can make them work out that way. Options number 1, 3, and 4 were based on like trips data and how SAFE was calculated. So there's a per trip charge that we're putting into that. And essentially, if I'm looking at this, a residential we're saying is one trip. And we're saying in the calculation that multifamily is 2/3 of a trip of per residential trip. So the way I'm looking at it is that apartments we're putting into this formula is drive 2/3 of what a normal single family resident drive. This is based on engineering principles and trips data, which I am not an expert at. But when we went and did for SAFE and SSMP, we do it based on the per trip charge. And for residential, we hit them at the full 1 trip. And for multifamily, we do at 7/10. So that's where the 2/3 comes from. So that's how I got to the different factors. I didn't answer that very well at all, but that's.
So I kind of got it. I guess just looking at the prior column, if you did it $5, it would raise 3,000 more a month, and so it raised $3,600 more. I mean, $36,000 more a year, it would get closer to your 900.
And
Cool.
also too, in scenario one, there's $5 residential and then 3. You see in the multifamily goes from 10.6 to 17.6. So by going up that $2, you're bringing in another 7,000 of revenue.
I think that is helpful. And the tension that I'm feeling right now is I believe in the math and the like lofty ideas about the differentiation and trip data between residential, single family residential and multifamily residential needs. And I also, as we set a fee schedule for this, don't want to be under that $900,000 in short change or low end projections of what we would need. And so having maybe a 7 and 5 split, I think is something that I would be more supportive of if that got us closer to the 900,000 number.
I think that would get you close. And I should mention too, there is so many different ways that we can construe this. And I reached out to a lot of other cities to kind of figure out what they use it on. Theirs is more of a flat idea, but I got feedback from council that we wanted to use near the more safe approach. And so this is how we got to this model. But we're open to whatever you're comfortable with.
And the beauty again of a utility fee is we can, at any moment you want us to come in and present data on what we're seeing revenue trends look like, and we can do that. And these are taps you can turn up and down.
Yeah, I do appreciate the point covered is we have a lot of random fees and programs, and the average person is not anxiously watching all of our videos to understand them. And so the more that we can have kind of a standard system, a standard way that we have calculated these fees and a standard approach, I think that is just transparency baked into the system that I appreciate. So I appreciate all the work you did to mirror this.
I just have a quick question. Do we have an estimate of what the overtime savings is going to be per year?
So good point. It's a hard, it's a hard crystal ball to like fully dial in. But I think what we could do, we can look at, some of our, when we were more fully staffed and kind of where that, but like, $410,000 a year is what we're using now. Overtime is just such a hard thing to predict because again, of the example of the major incident, but things that are a little easier to predict are employee leave, somewhat injury, although when you have 3 people get hit by cars in 30 months, that makes that hard to predict. So I do think we are all confident, I'm looking at my team, that there would be savings. And that would be also the operational or managerial direction that we would give our staff, is that we're doing this, and so we need to get our overtime utilization under control. We could try to splice data for you, Councilor Gosar-Body, but I think it's a murky crystal ball.
Well, and it's probably not changing much in the first 18 months while people are getting trained and getting up to,
But also, I guess what Councilor Gosar-Body is teasing out is the 900,000 that you're hoping to raise, it does not already includes the savings of overtime, or does not?
No,
Okay.
it does not. I liked how Michael put that, is this money can work for us.
All right, it sounds like we got uniform answers on going forward on the 19th, and we got uniform answers on the $7 rate with a little asterisk about what the multifamily rate is. So is that good enough, or do you want?
What would be better is if I could see head nods from the other counselors on if you would also be supportive of a $5 multifamily. So you're so good at mental math, Council President, but I think it was 3,000 more a month, 36,000 more a year.
I calculated math pen and paper, but I gotta give Mayor Bailey credit for saying it out loud.
So 7 and 5, and then tiered commercial. And we will follow up with the addition on the low income utility assistance customers.
Okay. I think that's it for that agenda item. We have, oh, we do not have another executive session. No, that's, okay. That was a if needed. Okay, so we just have council reports left. Anybody have council reports they want to give?
The mayor asked me really quickly to provide a quick update on the short or special session that's coming up in the legislature.
Don't blame the mayor.
They'll,
Oh, I did.
No.
I did.
Robert's kicking me right now, so I gotta explain why the heck my mic is on. August 29th is when the legislature will be convening. I think they plan to be around until September 1st, Labor Day, to try and find some stopgap measure for our transportation woes that we experience. ODOT has 400 positions that are unfilled and will remain unfilled, in addition to about 480 positions that they have given layoff notice to. So that's about 800 positions that are being cut. There are dramatic cutbacks in what that means in terms of services, plowing the roads, filling potholes. That has some people really concerned. And this doesn't even include the 50-30-20 split about how this money would support cities and counties who are in desperate need of more funds. So all of that is a background underlying stopgap measure that the state is considering. It would be a much smaller property tax or a much smaller gas tax increase than discussed previously, about 6 cents. It would be split 3 cents, 2 cents, 1 cent. It would be very similar to the last day proposal that the state considered, except this maintains the 50-30-20 split. I think the big context here is this does not help fund the projects established in House Bill 2017. This does not help supplement programs like Safe Routes to School or Great Streets. All of the kind of aspirational things in a transportation package are not included in this. It's just accountability work and a stopgap measure to prevent the layoffs this session. So if the legislature is serious about making sure that we can repair our bridges on a time horizon that's less than 99 years, which is what it would take right now to replace all of the bridges in Oregon, we're gonna have to look at another transportation package. So it's hard. You're kind of constantly having these transportation conversations. But at the very least, this is what can be passed now and what can prevent those layoffs. So you should be prepared on the 29th to submit letters. I know that it is helpful. There's a sentiment, LOC and AOC were not active and enthusiastic about the first packages. And I think that it is hard to advocate for a 50-30-20 split if you're not also at the table advocating for the funds we raise. So I think there is an important role in cities saying these funds are important, we see a need if we want to keep getting our slice of the pie.
So are you expecting, I had, through the MMC, had heard, had seen parameters of a bill that was 6 cents gas tax, but was also increases on vehicle registration fee and a few other fees. Do you think those are no
Yep.
longer on the table?
So the full package, what I've seen so far is a 6 cent gas increase, some title and registration fees, and a 0.1% payroll tax increase to be able to save all the layoffs on transit.
Right.
So they're spreading these out amongst a few different sources. The fee increases are much less than they were in the original proposal. And the hope is there are other provisions to kind of create parity in EV payers as well that would happen with registration. So they're attempting to do some of the things in the original House Bill 2025, but it's a much more pared down version.
Do you think we will see a bill before our next meeting, before August 19th?
I think so. It's funny. Kelly Brooks is the one who's working on transportation in the governor's office. And the governor's office has stepped up much more. So I've got to see Kelly come back. And it's funny to see Kelly and Mark come back. So good friends return.
Yeah.
And so she has promised bills, one pagers, and other information soon. I have not seen anything come in yet. But I think that would be a very good timeline. I know that there are 2 ways you can do a special session. Or one is you have everything planned out and you call it special session. One is you call the special session, kind of figure it out on the fly. I think we're often for the latter. So I think there are some last things being ironed out to make sure that you can get quorum, the votes necessary. So I would hope that they have it figured out.
Yeah, I guess there's some, well, anyway. Okay, well, thank you for that. I appreciate that. I wanted to mention, we had a big talk about parks earlier. I had a conversation with some folks yesterday around the cut of the senior services at the Milwaukie Community Center. It was presented by, for those who may not remember, it was the budget process in May, June was to cut the transportation system program, which is the transportation program rather, which is what brings people to the center, picks people up on shuttles and brings them to the center for lunch, as well as to cut Fridays from the schedule. And so make, Milwaukie Community Center be closed on Fridays, no meals, I guess extra meals delivered by Meals on Wheels on Wednesdays and Thursdays to cover the weekend. There was an agreement there was a lot of public outcry. There was an agreement in the budget process to fund that for 6 months out of reserves. There was some, some expectation that the county was going to lead some kind of conversation around how to fill those gaps. That is coming up in our parks conversations too. Some looking at us for some looking by NCPRD and county commissioners at us for providing senior services. So I was really disappointed when at last week's board meeting, Kia just reported that those cuts will go into effect January 1 and said nothing about any efforts to find further funding. Some people from the Milwaukie Community Center Advisory Board and the Milwaukie Community Center Foundation are having ongoing conversations with NCPRD. But I just sort of wanted to flag it for people out there that it does look right now like nothing has been brought forward as a way to address those shortfalls in the budget, and those services may indeed be cut at the end of the calendar year. I guess that's it for me. Any other folks with council reports?
No, no report, just a comment. I just expected a little bit better out of this county commission. Pretty disappointed so far.
Like Councilor said.
I have a little update. Well, I was looking to see if I could find the name of this young woman that I met. But hopefully she watched until the end of this meeting and then she'll see this. Just holding on, just waiting, staying up, super tired. So I had this really cool opportunity to meet a very young member of I think maybe of the arts committee. She said she was the liaison for
Youth
Porch
Art
Fest.
Ambassador.
Yes, the youth Adeline. Okay. So she was stopping by different Porch Fest locations and taking video and taking photos and putting together something that would be, it was just on the heels of the time capsule and everything. And it was so neat. And she was probably 8, Jesus. So, which just aged me by about 8 years. So she was wonderful. She was super excited. And she was doing her job very seriously. And it just made me so happy, to see somebody really excited about community events, being a part of building community in Milwaukie. It was really, really neat. So if you're still watching, Madeline, go to bed. And thank you.
And I and the chair of the Arts Committee, Jeanette, and Jordan, the staff liaison, all interviewed her in late June and gave her an interview right before the Arts Committee meeting. And she did attend part of the Arts Committee meeting. And actually, just today, I was like, oh, we owe her an appointment letter. So I'm thrilled to hear that she was out there going after it at
Oh, yeah.
Porch Fest.
Yeah,
she
she was-
got her official. Okay.
She was on the beat.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and I would love to see the final product
Yeah.
of snippets and, you know, updates from the perspective of such a young community member. So maybe at a future meeting, we can get.
Well, maybe we
some-
need to amend our letter and invite her
Yes.
to come back.
I first met Adeline when she came to one of my city manager open doors, and I mean, I could be out of a job soon. She's impressive. Yeah.
Like before she's 9.
I know.
Yeah, she was awesome. She was a firehouse. So, yeah. Well, that's cool. Did you see her downtown at a Porch Fest or in the neighborhood?
Yeah, we were hosting Porch Fest. We were one of the businesses. Like, and that's a really cool expansion of Porch Fest too, that businesses are getting involved in offering free music. So she came in and she was reporting on, you know, very seriously reporting on what was going on, and, you know, took some photos and videos, and God, she was just really, really cool. And so you know, hopefully she's going to run for city council in this next cycle. She can hold down this side of the dais.
Okay. Well, yeah, we will keep you posted on Adeline, and maybe we can try and bring her to a council meeting to show her videos.
Scott does not have a goose, but I think Scott has a comment.
Well,
He's confiscated this.
7 o'clock. Just a quick question for council, a request from staff regarding August 12th, next Tuesday's executive session. So well, we noticed it today, but instead of a study session, it'll be an executive session for continuing the executive session that you started in July for staff reviews. There's a request if council's open to starting at 4 o'clock instead of 5:15. So I told the person who requested I would convey that message to council and see if 4 o'clock next Tuesday works for council.
it's the employee reviews. We're still.
Which employees?
We are still waiting on some stuff.
4 will work for me.
Will?
Yep.
Yeah, would work for me. Are you, okay? Okay. Okay. Counselor? Okay, sure.
I'll let them know and we'll have to revise the notice, but no big deal. So 4 o'clock next Tuesday. Thank you.
Okay. If no other council reports, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
It's moved and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? None heard. We are adjourned.